classes we had before, which were about the basics of coordination and the basics of speed and agility. Now, in this class, we are coming to the way of how to start with the young players. And this is important to start with the open defense. So in this presentation, man-to-man defense, we're going to work with 3 chapters again. So the first one is about the structure of the game. Second will be about the conception of open defense, how we work this out. And the third one about examples for drills. So let's start with the first chapter now. It's about the structure of the game. And as you know, handball is played not only from adults, but from young boys and girls too. And in Europe, since now more than 25, 30 years, we start quite early with the handball game. Even boys and girls with 6 and 7 years old, they come to attend handball lessons and they start playing. But in that category of age, playing in a normal way or in a way like adults are doing this is not given. They play in a special way because it's a free play they prefer. And this free play, in this free play, they orientate themselves to the ball. This is the normal situation because every one of them, they want to have the ball. So moving on the court very close to the position of the ball is something very natural and very helpful because the closer to the ball they take their position, the higher the probability that they will get into possession of the ball. So in that moment, running away into free space, show that you are free and available for a pass, is not so useful because the one in possession of the ball cannot see and cannot pass over a long distance. So that's why every one of the attacking team is moving to the ball. Give it to me, please. And all the defenders, they want to intercept the ball from the attacking team. They do the same. So in this moment, we have a more or less cloud of players around the ball, and compared to our expectation of a game of handball, this looks like chaos. But if we take a closer look, we will see that this is not a chaos. This is very well structured because the element that structures is the ball. Because if the ball is on one place, all the players are at that place. But if the ball is thrown somewhere on the court, the whole group of players, attackers and defenders, move to the new place of the ball. So there's a structure, but this is not the structure we expect from handball. The structure we expect, I call it the big game, is a game that is organized in space. Positions for the players in attack, positions for the players in defense, so that they don't interfere, that everyone in his position has enough space to do something and not gets into conflict with another in the same position. So this is a space-orientated game, and this is the one we want to have for the handball like we are used to it. And to show the big difference in those 2 types of games, ball-orientated on one side, like the beginners do, and space-orientated on the other side, I have a quite old video, I hope that the quality is okay, that shows the difference of those 2 types of games in one match. So this is, as I said, a little bit old. It should run, yes, now it's coming. And you can see 2 teams of very young boys and girls now in that moment. It's the white team and it's the light blue team. And I hope you can see the colors clearly. Now, in that moment, the light blue team is more or less in ball possession, so they are attacking team. All the players of the attacking team, as you can see in this picture now, they orientate themselves towards the ball. So passing and catching, the technical drills are not so fine, okay? So, but this is the way they are organized, moving to the ball for a short pass, and then they want to continue playing. The white team is in defense, and the white team, as you can see, is divided into two groups. One group, the two players in front here, defending against the ball. So in that moment, they try to intercept the ball. But the second group, the second part of the white team, is four players here taking their position at the 6-meter line, arms in the air, like a defender should do that, but defense should do that in the moment when somebody is in front of them for shooting. So it's not useful in that moment to stand arms up, because it's almost stupid, we can say. So this is the difference between ball-orientated game of the white defense here and space-orientated game of the white defense you can see here. And from that video, I think it should be obvious for everyone that both ways of playing in that category of age are not okay, are not useful. Because if, like we see here, all the players move around the ball, it's a problem of orientation, it's a problem of passing. So the more players around the ball, the more crowded, the more difficult to play. But on the other side, it's also not possible to put players on the line here, like a monument, not moving, not running, not playing at all. So in that moment, this is like a picture, but it's not like a video, it's not like a moving scene. And this is what we don't want to. So there's a big difference, or a big gap, let's say a conflict between those two types we saw of game here, ball-orientated game and space-orientated game. And to solve this conflict, we must find a different way how we can structure the game. And this is only possible by an opponent-related game structure. So the players should not move to the ball, they should not stand on position, they should, from the defense side, get related, get connected with their personal opponent. And in that moment, it's obvious what type of defense is to be used. It's the man-to-man defense. On the court, they can orientate on the ball. On the court, they can orientate on space. Or on the court, they can orientate on opponent. And this is, from my point of view, the way we should try to teach them when they start the game. Especially space orientation in a position is something which is really difficult for the young players, because this is something which is not capable for them. Whereas a direct opponent, see number 10 in the green shirt, this is the one you always follow. This is much more clear, much more obvious to follow. And so that's the way we should do that. But to introduce this opponent-related game structure takes a little bit time, and some difficulties appear in the first moment when the players come from ball orientation to opponent orientation. In Europe, we have this situation very often when they come from mini handball to playing on the full court. Because mini handball is the first step in handball we organize. It's a game with one goalkeeper and 4 players only in each team on the court. So we call it 4+1 mini handball. And the game or the court is a little bit shorter. It's only 20 meters in the length, 13 meters in the width. We have a smaller size of the ball, a smaller size of the goal, a smaller size of the goal area. It's a 5-meter goal area only. And so in that moment, it's a really mini game of handball. And in that game, the players really can play free. We don't have a tactical structure. They move very quick from one goal to the other side to have goal shots as often as possible. But if they come to the full court, 40-20, and they play in the 6 against 6, then it's no use to play anymore in that freestyle. Then they must come to opponent orientation. But this takes a little time. If the coach instructs the player, now please always follow your opponent, then the opponent is passing the ball away. Oh, the ball. And in that moment, the opponent is running away. So this is really a process, and we have to give time to all the players to work it out till they come from ball orientation to opponent orientation. Then we have a second step, depending on the category of age. Now in Germany, we do this 2 or 3 years later, when they come from opponent orientation to space orientation. This is the step from man-to-man defense to zone defense. And this is the step which has to be worked out. You will see that later on in that presentation with the sinking man-to-man defense. So this is the second step. And then from ball orientation to opponent orientation, we come finally to space orientation. This is the concept that we will show in this presentation. So, and for this process in Germany, we take a time up to 4 years. So we have 2 categories of age. The players are using this open defense man-to-man and sinking man-to-man. It's the category of age 9 and 10 years old and 11 and 12 years old, when they start with the man-to-man and sinking man-to-man defense in open space. Now, playing in open space is something very useful for beginners, because beginners have to play in open space, and if they play with a man-to-man defense, they always have to play with same number of players in attack and defense. So for instance, for these categories of age, we have a certain rule that if a player in defense is receiving 2 minutes punishment, he must go out like normal. But the team can bring in another player, so that still there's a 6 against 6, so that the man-to-man defense can continue, and they need not to defend with 1 player less. So this is in those categories of age, 9 and 10, 11 and 12, a special rule we have, so that we always can keep the man-to-man 6 times one-on-one on the court, keep this situation constantly. These open spaces, they first of all help attackers. More space or open space is always good for attack. Smaller space is easier to defend. So this is a general word, and everybody can knows this from his experience on the court. So always more difficult to defend in open space, and more difficult to attack in smaller space. But this helps to keep a balance between attack and defense. Because if the space is too big, it's too easy for the attackers. And you can't see such open defense like man-to-man in international games, because then the players are too strong. They will always successfully solve that situation because of their athletic skills, because of their technical skills, because of their ability to play. So by the time the attackers are weak, and this is the situation we have with beginners, we must give them some advantage, and this advantage is open space. By the time the attackers get stronger and stronger, better technical skills, better decision making, and so on, then we reduce the space of the defense. And this is the balance we have to keep. So we need a game which is structured by the way the defense is working, more open or more close, so that both sides, attack and defense, can be successful. If we would allow in this category of beginners level the defense to go back to the 6-meter line, it would be a very boring game for the players in attack, because small spaces are given only in that moment and they cannot be successful, or maybe 1 or 2 players can be successful, but not everyone. And this is not okay for the learning process. In the old days, later on you will see a video about that, we had this situation that the defense was a zone defense in that category of age, 9 and 10 years old, like in adult handball. And you could always see that only 1 or 2 players were active on the court. All the others, especially in the wing positions, they were running up and down and doing almost nothing. Whereas in the open space with the man-to-man defense, everybody can have his options, everybody can have chances to do something with and without ball. And this is a much higher intensity and much more options to learn movements from attackers and defenders' side. Okay, now for the attackers, always the idea is make a goal, you try to score. But for the defense, in the beginners level, first of all, the very basic idea must be to win back the ball. And this is something which is very good, possible, very easily possible, because the players in attack, they don't have so strong individual skills. So for instance, for dribbling, very many of them, they need to observe the ball. They cannot dribble without observation of the ball. They cannot dribble so good when changing the hand, changing the direction. So in that moment, the players in defense would have an easy job to intercept the ball. But the stronger the players in attack are, the more work for the defense. So that's why in the moment when we start, first of all, please advise the defense to go for winning back the ball, intercepting while dribbling, intercepting passes in the air, because they're flying more like this and not like that. So in that moment, it's easy to jump in between. The stronger the attackers are, the more the defense has to work against them. And this is a word you have heard already before. It's our third instruction in handball. Attack trains, or attack teaches defense. So that's a very good thing. And you will see that in our last chapter today, that first of all, we don't need special defense training in the category of age of the beginners. First of all, we must teach the attackers, teach them the simple basic individual skills, teach them the easy decisions that they can make in such a game in open against open defense. And the better they are, the more demanding for the defense against them. And if the attack has reached a certain level of skills, then the defense will be on their way, on the way to intercept the ball. And then both sides will take a benefit from that, because the attackers, they have to work out their technical skills against an active defense, and the defense, they have to try to intercept the ball from an attacker who is not losing the ball so easily. So, and this is something which comes together. That's why we first start with attacker-orientated drills, And from a certain level on, from a certain step on, we continue to defense-orientated drills or introduce the defense into that organization. And we will see that afterwards in our practical part. Okay, this was chapter number 1, the structure of the game. Now we come to the conception of open defense, how it is performed or how it is basic in the German Handball Federation. Other federations in the world, they do it in the same way. And basically, I think this is a very easy to follow and very logical concept how to introduce the open defense to the players. Now, as we said before, attack teaches defense, but you know the second instruction that defense structures attack. So if we play with an open defense, this is a real strong impact on the game because the attack has to react on that. So playing with a man-to-man defense creates different situations for the players in attack compared to a zone defense. So against an open defense, the players in attack, they come to the center line and defense is standing in front of them. They have to stop. Sometimes when they are without ball, they cannot receive the ball because the defender is very close to them. So they have to run free. They have to make themselves available to receive the ball or catch the ball. When they catch the ball, they are still so far away from the goal that they cannot shoot directly. So they have to move around the defender, cover that space, go close enough to the goal to make a successful goal shot. And this is totally different to the situation in or against a zone defense. If the zone defense is close to the 6-meter area, the attackers can take their position very close at the 9-meter line. They can circulate the ball in a nice way without interception. And they can prepare their shooting, and then the defense might be more active. So the way of attacking is determined by the way of defending. That's why we say defense structures attack. So, and the second aspect in that open defense is the space which is given in the width and the depth. On one side, quite good, because the players can move. On the other side, for some of them, a little bit more demanding, because they have to cover this space by orientation. They have to make decision. And this is something which we want to give to them. We want to set them under constant pressure to make a decision, because this is what they have to do in game 2. For the defense, it's more demanding too, because the movements of the defense are very special in that open defense compared to a closed defense. So the direction or the main direction of movement for defense in an open defense is not stepping out, because they start when they have already stepped out. The main movement is when the attackers try to break through, and then the movement of the defenders is backwards and sidewards, always to be in the position between opponent and goal. And this movement backwards, sidewards is something very demanding for the coordination of the step work. So that's why in our presentations before, we were focusing on coordination, because the better the basic coordination, the better the step work, the more easy for the players to realize these movements, especially in defense, when the main direction is backward, sideward move. Another aspect of that open defense is the focus on the one-on-one situation. And this is a situation which is constantly given between one attacker and one defender in the man-to-man or sinking man-to-man defense. And this is very demanding, because constantly the defender and the attacker have to observe each other, have to anticipate what is the other one doing the next step, have to act and react in the same moment. And so this is a very intensive situation for learning to play. But this situation, one-on-one, is given in two variations or presented on the court in two variations. It's the one-on-one with ball, but on the other side, it's the one-on-one without ball. So one-on-one with ball means player in defense is defending against ball possessor. But one-on-one without ball is the situation in the man-to-man defense against attacker who is not in ball possession. Now there are three differences between those two situations, and maybe a little bit new to follow this argumentation. First of all, the one-on-one without ball is more demanding in observation, because, as you know, the player in defense always has to observe ball and opponent. In the one-on-one with situation, ball opponent and opponent are on the same position. So to focus the orientation or the observation is possible. But in a one-on-one without ball situation, ball is passed and opponent here, ball in that possession, ball in that possession, ball in that position. The players in defense, they have to spread their observation. And not only to the side, but behind, because the open defense sometimes creates situations in which the one-on-one duel is, let's say, 16 meters away from the goal, but the ball is 9 meters to the goal. And then orientation for the defender getting more and more difficult. So in that moment, you can see that one-on-one without ball is much more demanding on the focus of observation. Second aspect is that the one-on-one without ball might be more dynamic, because the player in attack without ball, he can move like he wants to, he can make feints, he can be very fast compared to the player with the ball. Because with the ball, the movement is limited to 3 steps, carrying the ball. After this, the ball possessor has to bounce. And normally in beginner's level, we are still talking about that, when they bounce, they get slow, they observe the ball, change of direction is not so easily possible. So in that moment, they will get slower. That's why there is more speed possible. Not very often you see that, because the attackers, they don't move enough. But if they move, it's much more demanding for the defenders. Third aspect is now quite simple, but just look on the court and you will see only one-on-one with ball situation, but you will see 5 one-on-one without ball situations. So that means that the situation which is more demanding in observation and the situation which is possibly more dynamic, this is the standard situation, because you have it 5 times on the court, whereas only 1 time defense is against the ball possessor. So that's why in our training, we should not always focus on the one-on-one with ball situation. We should also focus on the one-on-one without ball situation, because it is so demanding. Okay, now let's see how the concept is worked out over the different categories of age. As I said, we have this as a compulsory system now in Germany for almost up to almost 20 years. We are using this. And this system starts, this compulsory system starts with the category of age 9 and 10 years old. Then the players, they can work with the full man-to-man, full court, man-to-man defense. So if in attack you're losing the ball, maybe because of unsuccessful goal shot, you don't need to run back. You can have full man-to-man court This is a full court man-to-man. This is no problem. But at least this is the minimum requirement. You have to use the man-to-man from half court on. So your team can go back to the center line, but from the center line, there must be a clear connection, a clear link between attacker and defender. This is what has to be seen from the referee too. So because if not, it's a violation of the rules. After a goal, the game is restarted at the center line, and then with a 3-meter distance to the ball, the man-to-man defense starts half court. This is what we do in 6-on-6 normal game, but we have a variation of that 6-on-6. It's called 2x 3-on-3. And this is a special variation used in that category of age. Some regional federations in Germany are doing that, some not. I, from my point of view, really prefer this type of game because it's even more intense than the game 6 against 6. I will show you some video from that and then you can see it. Okay, the first video is quite old, but it's a comparison again between defensive defense and open defense. This is from the time when it was not compulsory to use the open defense. So in this moment, you can see more or less a 5-1 defense, players in defense taking position, more or less at the 6-meter line, some of them a bit more open, but attackers try to break through. Then we have an interruption. So in that moment, it's a free throw executed. Okay, this looks like adult handball, but the pass is not coming to every player. Now, in the next, you see a very nice pass to the pivot. This is quite successful. Okay, lovely. But as I said before, the game is always in the center of the court only. The wing players, they don't take part. They're running up and down, doing almost nothing. And another point, you will see it here, the defense is reacting only. So some stupid things happen, like we can see here, when the attackers go to front, and then sometimes you see the foul of the defense, and we don't like this. So once again, this scene, attacker breaking through, and not a very nice action from defense. Now from the same match, you can see the difference. This is what I told you. A defense structures attack. Now it's a complete open defense, except one player. This is the backup in the defense here. At that time, as I told you before, it wasn't compulsory, so we had this tactical option. And by the time the game is started, now the defense tries to intercept the ball. And this is the way the players should enjoy the game in that category of age. Intercept the ball and speed up for a fast break. So once again, try to intercept the ball and break through. So in that moment, it's really clear that there's a different structure in the game and different idea in the game if we use this man-to-man defense. And on the other side, it's clear that the players, they must be moving, or they must move in a very different way compared to the game with the zone defense. But see how many of them are moving, how many of them are running without ball from defense and attacker side, how they cooperate and how they play. So This is the way we want the game in this category of age. But still, we experienced that in this game, not every player is involved too, because after a quick interception and a fast break, some players still don't have the chance to come from defense to attack and to take part. So that's why I'm really in favor of this variation, 2 times 3-on-3. And as you can see here, this is a game where the court is divided along the center line. So we have 6 players of each team on the court. 3 players from orange team on attacking side, 3 players from orange team on defense side. And the same is vice versa for the light blue team. On that side, 3 in defense. On the other side, 3 in attack. But none of them from no team is allowed to cross the center line. Only the ball is passed from attack to defense side and the other way around. So now, executing the throw in. Now, short mistake, ball is with the goalkeeper. And now a very important situation starts. This is the situation where now players of light blue team, they are on the attacking side, but immediately they have to switch to defend. And players from defending team, they have to run free, and you can see this player moving now here, and receive the ball while moving. Break through to the other side, and then, as you can see on the other side, player in attack, running free at the center line to catch the ball while moving, turn around and break through. And this is the big difference between 6 against 6 and 2 times 3 against 3. Because in the 2 times 3 against 3, we have the big space given in front of the goal. Whereas now, as you can see it a little bit, when all players are around the center area, the game is a little bit compressed, but the open space is in front of the goals. And this is what we want. And we made some observations and researches, and we could see that in this game, every player on every side is really involved in the game. Moving without ball, running free, receiving the ball while moving, taking the ball and moving to opponent's goal, passing the ball to someone else who is free, or making a goal shot from your own. And this is what gives the players so many chances to learn. That's why I am really in favor of that game. Okay. Now in the next category of age, 11 and 12 years old, the teams have to continue with the man-to-man outside 9 meters now. So in both situations, one-on-one with and one-on-one without ball, the defender basically has to take a position outside 9 meters. So from that you can see the defense is now coming back. Before we were at the center line in both situations. Now we are back at the 9 meter line, minimum outside 9 meters. But in this category of age, 11 and 12 years old, the teams in attack, they go to the positions. So you will see 3 players in the backcourt, you will see 2 players in the wing, and you will see 1 player in the pivot position. This pivot is taking a position between 6 and 9 meters. So in that moment, the defender is close to him between 6 and 9 meters. And that's why we have a picture which looks like the first zone defense 1-5. But very often we have the problem that the coaches see only this picture as a static picture, and they put the players in that 1-5 defense, like you saw the player in our first video, the 4 white monuments at the 6-meter line. So they're standing 5 players on 9 meter and 1 player at 6 meter, and they say, oh, this is my 1-5 defense. And we say, sorry, no, this is not working, because this is no more open defending, this is no more active defending, this is no more defending with the basic idea to intercept the ball. So that's why we needed a different type of defense system to have the smooth transition from man-to-man to zone defense. And this smooth transition is given by the so-called sinking man-to-man defense. And the basic idea in this sinking man-to-man defense is still continue playing man-to-man, but nobody defending in front of the ball. So in all those situations, one-on-one without ball, defense sinks back to the line of the ball. And this is very easy to see and to understand from the video you see now. So now you see the defense starts here at the center of the half court. So the attackers were crossing the center line. Now the first defender here is around 16 meters away from the goal. This is 9-meter line. This is 6-meter line. All the other defenders open and attached to personal opponent. So it's still a man-to-man defense. And now we can see the attackers playing and the sinking of the defense. So now it's coming as a repetition and slow motion. So this is the one-on-one situation of center back against his defender. All the others observe opponent and goal. Now in the next moment, the ball is passed to left back. And the left back player now penetrates towards the goal. His defender is sinking, no problem. But much more important is the movement of the defender against center back now, because he is sinking too. You can see the movement backward. So, and in this moment, there are 3 advantages given from that movement. First advantage is it's easier to observe opponent and ball in that moment. Second is that the player is taking a position to help, because if he would still be close to his defender, this space would be open and the player with the ball could break through here. But now he is closing that area and so enforces the player with the ball to stop and to pass again. So we call this position the helping position. By the time the ball is now again with his attacker, he must step out. Now he's slipping away a little bit, but in general, he's doing a good job and fight against the ball possessor or his personal opponent again. So see it once again. This is the movement backwards. And if the ball is coming, try to stop him. And all the others, they sink too. So, as I said, first advantage, observe opponent and ball from that position. Second advantage, close the space and take a position to help, establish a position to help. And third advantage, introduce the movements that are necessary in the zone is in ball. In the next step, when the pass is coming, you can move up again in the next moment you can sink back. So stepping out, backward, forward, backward. This is the basic move the players have to do. And this is introduced in this sinking man-to-man defense. But they don't sink back to the 6-meter line or to the 9-meter line because the waves would be too long and the timing would be too much difficult. They only sink back to the line of the ball, observe ball and opponent, and then they can make a decision to step out very fast again. Okay, so this is the system we have for this man-to-man and sinking man-to-man defense. And in the next step, we will come to that in the next presentations. Then we talk about the zone defense 3-1. I just give you a short impression of how the players are moving in the zone defense 3-1. So you can see the red team now in defense, moving out, sinking back. So the movements are similar to what we saw before, but even in smaller space. And this is the basic idea of this concept. Start in an open space and step by step go back, reduce the space. By the time the attackers are getting stronger, the ball is passed more fluent. In that moment, the defense must defend in a smaller space to have a good chance. And this is what you see here. So this is the way we build up the game. Now, we come to that 3-1 defense later on in our series of the webinars. Now, in general, all the 4 basic principles in defense are valid in man-to-man and zone defense. So that's why I want to give you again a short reminder of that. We had them as the 4th instruction in our first presentation. The defense basic principles are: find the opponent and assign yourself to them. In a man-to-man defense, must find your personal opponent, which is not too strong or too weak. So we avoid mismatches in that moment. So in training situations and hopefully in competition, always bring together players on the same level. Then they learn really very much. Second is take the basic position between opponent and goal. Very basic, because the opponent wants to go to the goal and the defense stops this way to the goal. And from the frontal position, you can defend in a very nice way. Third is, very important again, observe ball and opponent. Especially not so easy in the situation one-on-one without ball, because then spreading the observation is needed. And number 4 is to help against breaking through attackers. Make a decision. But if you sink back, you can observe easily what's happening in the neighbor position, and then it's easy to make a decision to help or not. So now you can see how those basic principles are working in the man-to-man defense. Okay, in the last chapter, we come now to some examples for drills. And these examples for drills, they are following the basic idea I prescribed in the beginning. We said attack teaches defense. So in the first step, you will see here now, players in attack running free, and defense has to follow. So the first action here is a feint action. The second action is receive the ball from the coach at the center line and then break through on the other side of the court. So in that moment, between the 2 coons, the attacker here in yellow, he can feint. But by the time he touched a coon, then he must run towards center line. And defense has to touch the same coon and then follow. So the better the feinting, the better the situation for the attacker, because he is away from the defense. Now, when he comes around the cone, coach passes, and this is not a very attractive situation for the defense, but as we said, we start with attractive situation for attackers, receiving the ball, dribbling, breakthrough, and try to score. Defense must run and try to get in the position between opponent and goal. Now this defender is fast. Now he is in a good position and he is very good intercepting the ball. This is the way of defense we want to see. Now the hand is coming to the ball, intercepting and stealing the ball from the attacker. So now in the second step, there's a small variation, and you can see it here. Now we have two cones close to the center line. This cone closer to the center line is for the attacker. Second cone here is now for the defender. So attacker must go a little bit more to the center line, whereas this is a more or less shortcut for the defense. And in that moment, you can see that the defense is in the original position between attacker and goal. So that's perfect now. So as we said, we start attacker orientated, and now in the next step, we give better chance to defense. So when the attackers are solving the situation successfully, then we change and do it in a defense-orientated way. Sinking back, reducing the speed, don't make a foul, just go away, steps finished, thank you, attacker was losing the situation, defender was winning. So, and again, to the other side, now attacker is very good in breaking through. Okay, that happens. So you can see in that moment how they use this situation. The same situation can be worked out as a 2-on-2. We see it here. Now it's a feinting on both sides. Both players are running to the center line. Man-to-man situation. Can pass to man, and if they cannot pass within the team, they give the ball to the coach and get it back. And it's always same attacker against same defender. So play this in a strict man-to-man orientation. So as we said, if the ball is with the coach, run free, receive it again. But if the defense intercepts the ball, then the defenders should pass the ball to the coach. And then we have a very quick change of attack and defense, and the coach gives the ball back to the former defenders, now new attackers. So one-on-one with and without ball here. Try to push them to the side. That's always the idea of that open defense. Now, yellow team getting in ball possession, and there's a change between attack and defense. Now yellow must run free. Blue try to intercept the ball. And again, if it's throw in now, blue team, throw the pass or give the pass to the coach, and blue team running free. So in that moment, you play constantly with a very quick change of attack and defense. Okay, and the final variation of this is 3 against 3. Now you can see two players at the right and the left corner of the half court close to the sideline, and two players at the wing position. So they start like before, whereas the other players start at the center line. You can see it here. And then it's a 3-on-3 half-court game. So always same type of organization, but now extended from 1-on-1 up to 2-on-2, finally 3-on-3. And the defense is working in a nice way. Okay. Second situation or type of drills we have is the out and in. In this drill, we start with attacker at the center line and defender in the position between opponent and goal. Coach is standing in the center, starting at those two cones, but there are two more cones at the sideline. Now, when the situation starts, the player in attack passes the ball to the coach, runs outside, touches the cone, and then runs inside to run free and break through. So basically, this is now a little bit better for the defense like before, because the defense is from the beginning in the position between attacker and goal. But you can see now from that movement outside, please remember our first basic principle in attack. Open the central area. It's a good situation for the attackers too, because the attackers now, they can run inside, and if the defense cuts that way, it's a very good movement from attacker now, making a running feint and breaking through in the back of the defender. So it's a parallel training for attack and defense, because both players can learn to behave in this one-on-one situation. So it's a good fighting situation. Observe the ball, and now defense must catch it. Unfortunately, he's not getting it. But this is the way it should be worked out. Now, thinking back, try to establish the position between attacker and goal and intercept the ball. So, same can be organized in a 2-on-2 right and left side. So, as you can see, now both attackers go outside and inside too. The defense follows, and it's still a man-to-man situation. Every time, same defender against same attacker. Coach is at the center line again to be in a position to assist the attacking team. Now they need help because they cannot play. Okay. And now they found the solution. So from these moments, or from these scenes, you can see that one-on-one without ball is really difficult for the defense, because the ball is now in the position here, but this player, he is under pressure, because the player with the ball, he can keep the ball maximum 3 seconds and 3 steps. So in that short time, 3 seconds, this player must run free, and the defender must always follow him, observing his opponent and observing the ball. And this makes it really difficult. So now it's on the other side. Run free and run free here. And you see how difficult it is for the defense to follow opponent and ball. Now switch. Ball is with the white team. Be clever, be fast. And defense now in blue against white in attack. Another interception and react fast. Good interception from defense, white team again, and another interception. Okay, this is normal for beginners that they are making mistakes. Finally, they will solve the situation. Okay. Now the next variation is 3 against 3. So you can see 2 couples at the center line, but 1 couple at the 9-meter line. And in the starting situation, they run from 9 to 6 touch the line with the feet, and then they go up. So this is the moment. So this is the moment when they go back, now touching the 6-meter line. All the others go out and touch the coons, and then the situation starts 3 against 3. Okay. Next extension is 2 against 2, but in a different positioning. Now the 2 against 2 is one couple at the 9-meter at the center line, another couple only on that side of the court at the 9-meter line. So it's a situation which is good for the attackers for the give and go, and makes it difficult for the defense again, because now the ball can be with that player who is closer to the goal, and the defender in front, he should be closer now with his opponent, gets in problems of orientation. So don't think back too much, and don't let him run free. So moving out, moving in, and now you can see run free in the back of the defender. And this is the different or the difficult moment for the defense. Now defense observing ball, observing opponent, has a big challenge and must sink back now to catch the ball. This is too late. Sorry for that. Okay. And in the final step, we have the same organized as 2 times 2 on 2. So the yellow coons, they mark the line which cannot be crossed, should not be crossed. The players start out, in, and the coach gives the ball to one side. But if the coach is giving the ball to one side, this side cannot finalize the attack. The ball must be passed within the attacking team. Now it's blue, from that side to the other side, maybe with the coach. Now they can go for the goal. If the ball is coming from another teammate from the other side of the court, then they can score. So now again, running free in a nice way. This is what we want. Defense must follow. So once again, ball is now with the white team on the right side of attack. The ball is coming from the coach. They cannot shoot. They have to give the ball to the other side. Good running free. Defense was sleeping. Then they can finalize. Okay. Now finally, a last type of organization. This is the organization from 6-meter, 9-meter. Now the situation is organized with 3 players, and it's called 1-on-1 plus 1. So 1-on-1 is attack now in blue, defense now in white, and yellow is the one who is assisting the attacker but not allowed to shoot. So in that moment, they start from the 6-meter line on the 9-meter line to the center line. They open up the situation, and now defense has to establish the position between opponent and goal. But by the time the ball is given to the player who is assisting, now the orientation must be with the opponent and with the ball. So in that moment, we are training the situation 1-on-1 without ball. Passing is possible, running free is possible, and this is the moment the defense must react. So once again here, this is mistake, because the player was turning around in the wrong way. Think back, observe opponent and ball. Now action for intercepting was nice, but orientation was not so nice. So open, turn the body, see the ball, and you see moving backward is difficult from coordination. So observe opponent and ball, and now backward, sideward move. Good feint, okay. We love the attacker's move, but defense move could be better. Now we extend the situation one-on-one, but two players outside the given area, one here, are assisting the attacker. So in that moment, the attacker has two chances or two options. One option is pass the ball to the player on his left side, and the defender must orientate to that side. But it's possible to pass the ball to the other side too. So then the defender must take the opposite position so that he can always see opponent and ball. And turn around and catch the ball. That was a good interception. And this construction of the drills follows again that idea we have prescribed quite often now. Attack teaches defense, because we give now more and more options to the attackers, and the result is more and more movements and actions from the defense against that. If there's only one player to assist, it's only one side to orientate. If there are two players to assist, orientation from the defense must be to that side and to the other side. So in that moment, it's getting more and more demanding for the defense. Okay. And finally, we come to this situation here. It's called the one-on-one, or 2 times one-on-one with 2 players. So when they stop at the center line, then you can see the division of the court here. So it's right side, one-on-one, left side, one-on-one. It's one player to assist. Sorry, this is the orange one here and the orange one here, to assist on both sides. So on that side with the ball, it's one-on-one with ball. On the other side, in the other area, it's one-on-one without ball. Passes are possible from every player in attack and every player who is assisting outside. So sinking back now, guiding this one outside, this would be good. Okay, now it was a free throw. Execute that free throw. Run free in the back on the other side. So every player in attack can make now the decision whether to break through, to pass to the teammate on the other side, or whether to use the player outside for a double pass. We introduce the man-to-man defense in 2 positions. Later on, we can do that in 3 positions, and so on and so on. Okay. This is the end of the presentation. I hope that you could follow all those videos in a nice way. I will now go to the chat and have a look.
Thank you very much, Mr. Klaus. So today's lesson was very interesting, very useful, very informative, very knowledgeable. I think all participants listen very carefully, and you have taught us through drills, form of exercises, and how to construct some drills from simple to complex. So it was very interesting transition from man-to-man defense to shrinking man-to-man defense. I hope everybody got the knowledge and will implement when they will train their trainees. So thank you very much. Now Mr. Klaus will answer the questions if you have put on the chat box. Klaus, please go ahead.
Okay, how can a central attacker without the ball can use himself in the most benefiting manner if he is taken man to man in the center of the court while other defenders are doing zone defense? Sorry, I don't want to be unpolite, but this is a question which is not belonging to that topic. Because first of all, it's about a combined defense. Because from the question you see that there is a one-on-one against the center attacker, central attacker, but it's a 5+1 zone defense. And second is the question is about attack. And today's topic was sinking man-to-man or man-to-man and sinking man-to-man. So in that moment, sorry, like the days before, we don't answer questions not belonging to that topic. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Please tell once again the advantage of sinking man-to-man defense. This is a question related to the topic. Okay, now, first, if the player in a one-on-one situation is very close to his attacker and the ball is given to another position and this position penetrates towards the goal, then space is opened behind the player who is in the one-on-one without. So if that player in the one-on-one without ball situation is sinking back, first advantage is observation of ball and opponent is easier. I tried to restart the presentation, then maybe it's better to see. Well, now I have the chat box in front of me. Ooh. Okay. So let's go back here. Yes, hopefully you can see it. So now this is the situation. Now this is the one-on-one with ball. This is the player who is receiving the ball next. Now, this is now one-on-one without ball. You see the orientation of the player, observing opponent, of the defender, observing opponent, and observing ball. But now the player with the ball is penetrating towards the 9-meter line. So if this defender would now be close to his opponent, close to his attacker, this space would be open for a breakthrough, and it would not be possible, or it would be more demanding, to observe opponent and ball. But by taking this position here, it's easy to observe the ball and the opponent. That's why sinking to the line of the ball is helping to observe opponent and ball. Second is because this space is covered now from that defender, it gives the player with the ball the impression that he cannot break through. If he breaks through, tries to break through, the player in the second position here can go for help easily. If he would stay in this position and then breakthrough was coming here, the help would come from the side or from behind, which is a problem in our rules, because attacking from the side or from behind is maybe a risk of taking a progressive punishment. But if you are in this position, you are between opponent and goal too. So in that moment, it's easier to help. That's why we call this sinking position the helping position. And the third is that by the time the ball is with his attacker again, he must step out. So sinking back, stepping out, sinking back, stepping out, orientating here, sinking back here. This is the almost first step to that triangle move we have later on in open zone defense. This we will see in the presentation 3-1 in a very nice way. So these are the 3 advantages of the sinking man-to-man defense for a smooth transition from man-to-man to zone defense. Okay. Chat box once again. Yes, I've got it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. So, and starting of the match. Using the man-to-man defense is possible every moment of the game. You can start, you can work it out for all the whole match time. You can use it at the end. So, and I basically love if a team at the end is under pressure, maybe they don't want to lose the game, and tries to do something in defense. So I like this very much. And to make this as a surprise to the opponent, why not? For sure, I like it. 2x3-on-3 situation, how to implement. It's easy. If you follow the videos, you have seen 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3. And always we start with the 1-on-1, and then we come to half court 3-on-3 situations. If you double 3-on-3 on one side and on the other side, especially those training situations when the ball is coming from the coach at the center line, this is almost the same like the ball is coming from the opponent side of the court. And immediately you have all the situations you need for 2x3-on-3. This is not so difficult to organize. Key points for young players. So for the 2x3-on-3, very important is it's a game without tactical structure. Because 3-on-3 on one side, you don't play zone defense. You don't play 3-0 or 2-1 defense. You play automatically 3 against 3, man to man. So that's why we love this game, because it's so simple. It's self-explaining game, you might say. Second is nobody allowed to cross the center line. Only the ball is going from one side to the other side. But coach should be aware that every player is for a certain time on attack side and the same amount of time in defense side. Don't go for specializing the players in that early age. Only let them play in defense and only let them play in attack. This is not nice, first of all. This is not useful too. And it's not okay for the players. Don't make the mistake to have your strongest player in attack and the weaker player in defense. Because if you have weak players in defense, they will never be able to bring the ball to the other side to the strong attackers. So make a mix, strong and weak players on both sides, changing them very often, and everyone can take a benefit from that. Okay, we don't explain 3-2-1 defense because we will have a special presentation on that. Can a defense player block the attacker when he's without ball? Yes, for sure. So taking the position between opponent and goal and blocking the way is possible by using your body. Don't use the arms, don't hold, don't catch, because it's against the rules. But blocking without ball is possible. And if attacker is then running into the defender, it's a charging. We can have charging with ball, but we can have even charging without ball. But to be honest, in a man-to-man defense with a lot of players moving, for the referees, it's always difficult to find these situations, mistakes in one-on-one without ball, because first of all, the referees have to focus on the situation with the ball. Okay. Okay. implement in match situations like you saw it in our videos. This is the implementation. We do it in training. Work out those drills, and immediately you have the 2-on-2, the 2 times 3-on-3. 4+1 defense is not a defense system. 4+1 is a game we play. It's the so-called mini handball. You can find it in the internet. Just Google mini handball, and you will see the regulations for 4+1. It's smaller court, lower goals, smaller goal area, smaller ball, and reduced number of players. So it's 4 players on the court and 1 goalkeeper, 5 players in one team. And that's why we call it 4+1, because of the 4 players on court and the 1 in goal. To break this defense, yes, but when we talk about attack. Okay. Anytime doing defense, screen to own player. This is a problem of running free, I think. So this is a problem of attacker, again, how to run free and how to go away. Sometimes this happens, or by movements with a change of position, then it can happen. So this depends on orientation and how to slide around. This will be part of our presentation, cooperation in defense. So yes, you can make a combined defense, it's possible. This depends on how strong the attacker is compared to his opponent. So if the easy chance for the attacker is given if there's a strong attacker and a weak defender. On the other side, if you have strong defender and weak attacker, it's an easy chance to intercept the ball, and intercept the ball. So it's always the one who is stronger, he will win the fight. But if your attacker or in the match, your defender is weaker than the attacker in one group, and in the second group, and in the third group, and in the fourth group, and in the fifth group, and in the sixth group, then your team is in every single one-on-one situation on the court weaker than opponent's team in attack. What will be the result? The result will be you lose the game because 6 times your defense is weaker than opponent's attack. So then it's not a problem of the attack or the defense system, because your players will be weaker in man-to-man defense and your players will be weaker in zone defense. So in that moment, you will lose the game. This is quite normal, and this happens all over the world. Okay. So, thank you. Okay. Easy chance. This is a repetition. Thank you. Okay, you will receive the PDF immediately after this. Good. I think we have answered the questions.
Thank you, Klaus. Today's session was very, very interesting. We are very happy. Thank you very much once again. So now,
okay.
जो हमारे कोचेज हैं उनके लिए ये बहुत ही इंफॉर्मेटिव है जो लेसन है आज का, जैसे कि इन्होंने बताया कि आप जब भी प्रैक्टिस करें और जब कोई प्लेयर 2 मिनट सस्पेंड हो जाता है उसको बाहर मत निकालें, उसको गोल अवार्ड कर दें। तो इन सिचुएशन में अगर आपके पास कम बच्चे आते हैं तो आप मैन टू मैन से खिलाएं, ओपन मैन टू मैन, देन यू कैन गो मशीन मैन टू मैन, और 3 versus 3. If you don't have 20 by 20 mini handball, then you can play in 20-20. You can mix the ball to the side of handball court. So it is very informative. Thank you once again, Mr. Klaus. See you tomorrow with a new topic. Thank you all.
Goodbye.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mr. Klaus. Thank you. Fine one.
My pleasure.